for the images. All right, let's do it a little bit.
Back inside now in the Columbus module, the European Space Agency's laboratory and the U.S. segment of the International Space Station. Kjell Lindgren on the left, Kimiya Yui in the background, Scott Kelly in the middle. All three will be collaborating for the actual harvesting of the veggie experiment. The experiment housed in an express rack in the Columbus module of the International Space Station. It's about a 16-pound experiment designed to prove the concept of actually growing fresh produce in the weightless environment of space.
On Space to Ground 3 for veggie. We'd like to have an over-the-shoulder view of the MWA work area so we can capture your harvesting. Can you adjust the Columbus camera to give us that view?
That's Phil. We are putting that.
Yeah.
They have completed all of their tasks to this point, about to move to the large diameter, as it is called, of the Zvezda service module to collect samples of residue from one of the solar arrays on the Russian segment of the station, one of its radiators that dispels heat from the Russian segment systems, and from environmental control system vent valves for the Vozduk carbon dioxide removal system and the electron oxygen generation system. The crew continuing to move very rapidly through their tasks for the day on this spacewalk, the fourth spacewalk out of the International Space Station this year, the first Russian spacewalk of the year, and the 188th in support of space station assembly and maintenance.
It's 17 and 16, and Misha is staying on panel 16. Right, that's much closer. Misha? There they are. We're almost here. Okay, so I'll be rolling. And Gennady? What would you like?
And this view of the two Russian cosmonauts in the vicinity of the radiator panel and the solar array, where they intend to take samples of residue that have built up in the vicinity of vent valves for the Vozduk and Electron environmental control systems on the Russian segment. These samples will be brought inside for future analysis to determine how much contamination builds up over the course of time due to Russian segment thruster firings.
Okay, we do have a few towels left, right? Right next to the hatch. That's where I attached them. Well, there is nothing on the gloves that clean.
Inside the Columbus module, NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren has been taking photographs in advance of the actual final harvesting of the veggie experiment, as he and his crewmates, Scott Kelly and Kimiya Yui, begin to complete the setup of all of the test equipment and the harvesting equipment that will be used a short time from now in the final extraction and harvesting of the veggie crop, and the eventual consumption of the first lettuce leaves from that crop by the crew. Approaching the 2-hour mark into the spacewalk by Gennady Padalka and Mikhail Kornienko, the center of attention has shifted inside the International Space Station. You see Kjell Lindgren at a laptop computer, Scott Kelly nearby as they prepare imminently for the actual harvesting of the crop of veggie lettuce, red romaine lettuce leaves that have been nurtured and harvested for the past 33 days by Scott Kelly, the first crop of which arrived on the International Space Station in April of 2014 on a SpaceX Dragon cargo craft. The crew has been given the clearance to begin consuming some of those lettuce leaves once the final harvesting is complete. We're going to be staying with this as long as we have meaningful and important video to be downlinked from the European Space Agency's Columbus module. And their Russian crewmate Oleg Kononenko launched to the International Space Station back on July 23rd. They're in their 19th day on board the station. They will remain on board the International Outpost until they land on December 22nd in their Soyuz TMA-17M spacecraft. Scott Kelly.
3 for veggie ops.
Yes, go ahead.
We're going to get started with the harvesting here in just a couple of minutes. And then right after that, we'll have lunch.
In his 5th month of a year-long mission on board the International Space Station, his Russian year-long colleague Kornienko busy outside the International Space Station, giving the Payload Operations Center at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, an update on the fact that they will begin the harvesting of the veggie experiment lettuce samples just a moment or two from now, and then we'll begin consuming those samples. The initial plan was to use those lettuce leaves in a lettuce wrap by putting some oil and vinegar on those lettuce wrap by putting some oil and vinegar on those lettuce leaves to give it a bit of taste. We'll see what they ultimately come up with in terms of their menu. And now we're on board once again as you watch Kjell Lindgren begin the actual harvesting of